I want to welcome you all here today. I think that this is every bit as monumental an occasion as it was when we opened this transportation center. And if that bee stings me, it'll be more monumental. We're about to launch into service 5 new 35-foot Gillig buses. These buses are equipped with brand new clean air diesel technology, engines and transmissions, along with state-of-the-art operator equipment. This includes a voice enunciation system, commonly referred to as a talking bus. So what this bus will do as you go through town, it'll announce to you where you're at. And we can tell it to call any area what we want it to call. So it can be programmed. So stick your head out the window in the morning about 6:30. If you've got more than one bus going to a location, it'll tell you when the bus gets there. It also has a GPS tracking system. The purchase of these buses is made possible as a result of a combination of funding sources, including discretionary funds allocated by the U.S. Congress, Federal Transit Administration funds, and transportation funds allocated by the Montana Department of Transportation. On behalf of the public we serve, the Missoula Urban Transportation District Board of Directors, and I think you'll see several of them here today, and all of the employees and staff at Mountain Line, I want to thank all of these partners for helping us to complete this $1.5 million project. It's especially rewarding to me because now I'm the general manager of Mountain Line, but the buses we're replacing is the first set of buses that I was responsible to engineer, design, and procure here at Mountain Line quite a few years ago. I got to participate in the logo and the color scheme on the old buses, and now I get to say goodbye to it, and all our buses will be the same. At that time, we put the first set of Gilligs into service here, and they were the first ADA, that's Americans with Disabilities Act, accessible buses in the state. We now have the first set of buses that goes beyond what's called for in that act, and that is we provide more services than we are required to. But more importantly, this ribbon signifies the introduction into the state of Montana of a new Transportation Act, a safe, accountable, flexible, efficient Transportation Equity Act, a legacy for users, which now we refer to as, here in Alphabet Soup City, as Safe TLU. So when you hear that, you'll know what it means. What it does is bring new funding sources to transportation providers across Montana. Last week, new service was started in Bozeman. A large-scale transit facility is now planned for in Billings, and Great Falls is anxiously looking forward to getting new buses like the ones you see here. Rural transportation providers across the state now have the funding they need to develop coordinated services that provide much-needed rides for everyone in the community, including individuals with disabilities, senior citizens, and the general public. This act will help Mountain Line continue with its mission to contribute to a seamless, safe, convenient, and accessible transportation system for the Missoula community. We will continue to play a critical role in reducing air pollution and traffic congestion in this valley. These new funding mechanisms encourage us to continue to work together to coordinate transportation services throughout the corridor, realizing that regardless of the mode you choose, Seamless, multimodal transportation equals prosperity and secures a quality of life that we, as residents of Western Montana, have come to value. Thanks to the efforts of Senator Baucus and all of the hard work required to pass this act, new funding sources are available that were never available in Montana before. New Freedoms funding will allow urban areas like Missoula to develop programs that provide service and passenger amenities beyond what is mandated by the ADA Act. Job Access Reverse Commute funds, which were previously dedicated to much larger states, will become available to transportation providers in Montana for the first time. Transportation providers that coordinate services and increase ridership will be rewarded for their efforts with additional funding. In partnership with our local metropolitan planning organization, which includes both city and county elected officials, and I thank them for their support, Mountain Line has been allocated funding to operate its entire fleet exclusively on biodiesel. This move goes hand in hand with Governor Schweitzer's energy plan for Montana. Lastly, one of the biggest benefits to come out of Safety Lou, and especially for Mountain Line, is a change in the restriction of using congestion medication and air quality funds, commonly referred to as CMAQ, for operations for over 3 years. The new law reads that these funds can be used in non-attainment and maintenance areas with no restrictions. That is, there's no restrictions listed anymore. Before we were restricted to 3 years. That caused us to start a program and end it 3 years later because the funding didn't grow as fast as we would like to see it grow. I would like to personally thank Jim Foley, Kathy Ruffalo, Don Fenton, and Sandy Strail for allowing me to work with you and all of you as a new language was drafted, inserted into the bill, and guarded closely as this very important language maintained its place in the Act, securing a much more promising future for Mountain Line. This was huge for Mountain Line. I can tell you that for me it was a career move. I have to be really honest. It was something that I got an opportunity to learn a lot, and at the same time we were successful, which made it that much nicer. Another person that I really want to thank is longtime bus passenger Elaine Miller. Hi, Elaine. Would you step forward for a second, please, so everybody can recognize it? It's great that you're standing next to Mr. Lynch. Elaine pushed me a little harder for increased funding and, in fact, made a couple calls to the senator's office for me and generated some interest. I just want to thank all these people while I have the opportunity. It's been a challenge at times, but as you can see by the two buses sitting in front of you, it has its rewards. But even more rewarding is getting on the bus and riding with passengers that are pleased by our service.
I'm kind of selfish, so I'm in the bus.
Well, that's why we're here, Elaine. I would like to now introduce Mr. Jim Lynch, Director of the Montana Department of Transportation. Governor Schweitzer appointed Jim Lynch as Director of the Montana Department of Transportation in 2005. Mr. Lynch has a wide variety of experience in the private construction industry in Washington, Idaho, and Montana, with the last 20 years in the Kalispell region. Jim is also a pilot with single, multi-engine instrument and helicopter ratings. He has been active in the Flathead community over the past 20 years and has held positions on numerous boards and commissions, including Chairman of the Flathead County DUI Task Force, President of the Kalispell Area Chamber of Commerce, member of the Kalispell, board member of the Kalispell Rotary Club, and Chairman of the Board of Flathead Industries. Jim has also been involved in many fundraising activities in the Flathead Valley, and I've had the opportunity to meet him on a couple different occasions, lastly at the Montana State Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he likes to have a little bit of fun as well as likes to work. So with that, please help me welcome Mr. Jim Lynch.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Steve, and thank you for that introduction. I didn't expect that. You know, I see that, Steve, you must have sent the email but forgot. I see that the senator and the mayor and myself all wore the proper attire here today. Blue sport coat, blue shirt, light tan slacks, and no tie. You know, summertime in Montana, no tie. Is that correct? We got to change. I think we got to change it a little bit, mix it up. But you know, it's a great opportunity, and I'm very honored to be here and share the stage with the mayor and our great senator, state of Montana, because he's done an awful lot for Montana. You know, I took this job, as Steve mentioned earlier, about 15 months ago, 18 months ago. I lose track, and one of my first duties and one of my first meetings with our great governor, Brian Schweitzer, was to really look at transportation opportunities in Montana. And that's just not roads. That's all transportation opportunities. Is one thing that he observed in his driving and campaigning across the state of Montana is how important transportation opportunities are and how essential transportation is to an awful lot of people in our state, and some that don't have vehicles. And that brings us to mass transit, you know, the trains and the buses that are very vital to the state of Montana. And it's a tough thing to provide for Montana with the number of people that we have in our state and the size of our state. It's logistically it's very difficult, but it's not something that we can't accomplish. And we've worked very hard these last 15 months to look at transportation opportunities. We had basically 12 rural bus operations 15 months ago. We expect in 2 years to have 36 operations. We've already made contacts with 18 other communities throughout the state of Montana to provide intercity bus transportation opportunities as well as city bus transportation opportunities. But in saying that is, you know, we're one part of a very important piece of transportation opportunity in Montana, and we couldn't have accomplished this without the efforts of Senator Max Baucus. I've had the extreme pleasure and opportunity to be a friend of Max's for many years, more years than I want to say, probably since the first year I moved into Montana in 1986, and we worked together on a lot of different issues, and I've never met any official that works for the state of Montana that knows more about the pulse of Montana than our great senator and what the opportunities he's been able to provide for us from Washington, D.C. back to the state of Montana. He's been instrumental in the last 3 reauthorization bills, and to use acronyms, we had the first one, well, not the first one, but go back about 12 years, was ICE-T. And then we had 6 years later, we had T21, and now we have Safety Lou. And all 3 of those federal transportation bills, which span over, when Safety Lou is completed, over 18 years of funding opportunities for Montana. Montana has always seen a very dramatic increase in the funding that we receive in this state, and much of that thanks and much of the credit has to go to Senator Baucus' effort in being involved, being in the leadership position in all 3 of those bills. I don't believe we have a senator in this country that can say that they've actually been in the works, on the ground, drafting that legislation and providing opportunities for Montana. And what did that do for us here today? Well, what we saw today in the Safety Lou legislation, which Senator Baucus was very much involved in, was a $35 million hit to the state of Montana, a benefit to the state of Montana in transit funding. $35 million over the 6 years of this bill. That grew our transportation budget, our transportation opportunities in the state of Montana over 230% from previous years. And it's badly needed. It's much needed in various communities in Montana, as well as here in Missoula. As you can see, we have 5 new buses which will be servicing the Missoula area here in Missoula, and we were able to provide $860,000 towards that $1.5 million expenditure. And the $860,000 came from the efforts of Senator Baucus and the Safety Lou legislation. We're going to continue to provide transit opportunities here in the Missoula area, as well as the 5 other major metropolitan areas in Montana, as well as looking at intercity connectability and operations for rural Montana. And I'll close in saying, Steve, thank you very much for providing a tremendous opportunity for Missoula. I know you have an awful lot of staff that have helped you, but obviously your involvement from day one in this program has made it a very big success. And I'd like to thank really the staff at the Montana Department of Transportation. Sandy Strail was mentioned earlier, and what a dynamo. What an individual for MDT that can find ways to make things work. And I think that's what's important in the Montana Department of Transportation. We work for you, and we need to find every opportunity possible to make that happen. And to the leadership of Governor Schweitzer and empowering me and giving me the opportunity to work within the communities to provide transit opportunities and look at different possibilities that we can meet the needs of Montanans. And of course, Senator Baucus, again, thank you for you and all your support, your many years of support. You've done a great thing for Montana, and particularly in the transportation field as well as others. And we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you very much. And Missoula, thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for taking time from what I know is a very busy schedule and coming to Missoula today. And as I look around, I thought about introducing the people, the important people that are here today, but we'd be here for a while, because when you look around, if you look next to you, you'll see we're surrounded by the core of the Mountain Line family and the core of public officials that have supported us throughout the years and encourage us to grow, and those who use our system. And I think it's a great opportunity that we all get together and look at this new equipment. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, who is a close friend of mine, a fellow member of the Aardvark Society, which is a society that John and I founded together a few years ago at a downtown association picnic because all the good animals were taken. And I also worked with him on the Downtown Association board as a city council member when he was on the council, and in his current capacity as mayor. I even had the opportunity once to auction him off as a buffalo. So we have a little bit of history with that. Mayor Engen.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. It's a pleasure to see all of you this morning. So the two administrative guys have taken about a half an hour here, but now the politicians are going to start, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see how long we can make this work. Actually, I'll be relatively brief. You've heard about the complications that come with bringing buses to the city of Missoula. You've heard about the processes, the legislative actions, the effort, the hard work. And in the end, for the folks who live in Missoula and take advantage of these opportunities, it's very simple. Transportation is critical, it is crucial, and it is a basic need. It's a service that Mountain Line takes care of every day, and it's a basic need that, fortunately, Senator Max Baucus has not forgotten. In fact, he remembers, I think, just about every day the folks he served have basic needs, and through all the complications, he keeps that in mind. For more than, for nearly 3 decades now, Senator Baucus has been plugging away for Montanans, and you've heard some of the examples of that hard work. This was more of it today. I'm glad these buses have heavy-duty suspensions because I plan on taking a ride later. And in the meantime, I hope you all enjoy this fine morning, this fine service. It's a privilege to introduce our senior senator, the Honorable Max Baucus.
Thank you very much, John. As Steve was speaking, and he told us that you were auctioned off as a buffalo, the first question that came to my mind was just how much did the auction get? How much were you worth?
It went by the pound.
It went by the pound. I don't think it's quite by the pound because Steve told me that you went for $750. Congratulations. Speaking of animals, I took a slight double take and I saw our mascot over here, the Mountain Lion. First, oh my God, that could be a bobcat. No, and I realized, no, that's not a bobcat. And it's not quite a grizz, but we got a mountain lion, but absolutely, Monty the Mountain Lion. We in Montana are really one big family. We like to drive across our state, drive across our towns, ride across, say, Missoula, but we're really all connected by our transportation network. We're not a barge state, we're not a big seaport, not a seaport at all. unless you're on a big timber area of a big fork of a flathead lake. But we like to get around in our state. We think nothing of driving great distances, to see friends, see relatives, to go hunting, fishing, maybe go to dinner someplace. And that's why this transportation bill is, over the years, has meant so much to me. And I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but I've worked really hard, as has our team, and it really is teamwork. Jim mentioned Sandy Strail. I don't know anybody in our state who really works harder over the Montana Department of Transportation, even statewide, than Sandy Strail. That's a name I encourage you all to keep in mind. Sandy Strail. She is really one special person. And so 6 years ago, most states got about a 40% increase in highway funding each year. Well, I made sure we got a 60% increase for Montana each year. In the last transportation bill, we didn't quite as much money to spend, but made sure that although every other state on average got about 30% increase, we in Montana got a 40% increase. That's for transportation for Montana. It's about $2.6 billion over 5 years. And those are high-paying jobs too, those highway jobs. They're not some, McDonald's or so forth. These are good-paying jobs. It supports about 18,000 jobs in Montana a year. 18,000 jobs in that 2.6 billion, again, over 5 years. Then a large component is mass transit. We needed a big increase in mass transit, and we got it. It's about, as Jim mentioned the figure, it's about 240% increase in mass transit. When I was working on the mass transit portion of the bill, I was thinking of Missoula. I was thinking of Missoula because I know how you've worked really hard, admirably, to get the bus service going in Missoula. It's been kind of up and down the Rocky. It's getting the funding issues and so forth. So I thought to myself, boy, let's give Missoula a real shot in the arm by getting a big increase in transit funding. Then the rural portion of transit funding is even greater. So it means an awful lot to me to see people like, not only Jim in the state, but Steve and the mayor and university and so forth, working here in town to make sure that we got extra buses and make things work. Now, there's a lot of moving parts here. Steve mentioned this thing called CMAQ, basically just congestion, modification. It's funds to help reduce air pollution, and so Missoula, we got to make sure the CMAQ portion works better for Missoula. And as Steve mentioned, how it works so much better now than it did in the past. Add to that is something else I think it's really important. Missoula has always led the way in new, progressive, forward ways of finding solutions to problems in lots of areas, lots of ways. Things you're doing here in town, along the river, have done over the years, in addition to public transportation, it's really neat. I really take great pride in just thinking how much Missoula has always led the way in progressive ways. Some people say that we can't do anything about high gasoline prices. Some people say we can't do anything about that. We can't wean ourselves away from OPEC. But you, Missoula, know that's not right. You, Missoula, are doing things to wean ourselves away from OPEC. You're developing more public transportation, for one. And that clearly is going to help more people riding buses instead of always in cars. In addition, you realize that there are different fuels. The biodiesel fuel in these buses is another way to slowly wean ourselves away from OPEC. That is using American crops. Biodiesel basically is out of soybeans, but we in our state, in the next farm bill we're going to take up next year, are going to give real impetus to other crops like camelina, canola, and safflower. Biodiesel crops to help produce more biodiesel energy for our state. In addition to that, as a member of the got a big change passed in our tax law to give a big tax credit, a big boost to biodiesel. Took a few years, but we finally got it. It's a $1 per gallon tax credit for biodiesel. Now, Mountain Lion doesn't directly get that benefit, but the blender, the producer of the fuel, gets it, which means that biodiesel that you're using in your buses, it's a 20% blend, is going to be competitive, almost exactly the same as diesel fuel. So you in Missoula know that there are things you can do to lower gasoline prices and to wean ourselves away from OPEC. You're working at it. You're making it happen. And you're helping address climate change here in Missoula. Missoula's always been a lead in environmental issues, in climate change. This biodiesel fuel here will mean a 12% reduction in particulates and mean a 12% reduction in carbon monoxide. You know, that's important. That's significant. If we keep working on areas like that, keep moving, we're going to add our share and be leaders in the state and the country on going the extra mile, not realizing and knowing we can do something about the high gasoline prices. There are lots of things we can do about it. We just work at it and chip away. We're going to find solutions here. So I'm really proud of the teamwork here. As I look around, I see lots of great people who've done an awful lot here. Jim Lynch has been pretty complimentary. Let me tell you, we got a great head of the Montana Department of Transportation, Jim Lynch. This guy bleeds. He cares for Montana. Let's give a round of applause to Jim Lynch. He really does awesome. And you've got a great guy here in Steve Earle. This guy really, where's Steve? Steve really has worked hard here. Let's give a huge round of applause to Steve. Big Steve. And all the team. Steve and Steve's team. And our mayor, you know, I was born in Helena, but I kind of, my soul in many respects is in Missoula. I lived here several years and ran for legislature and so forth. And anyway, let's give a big round of applause to Mary. And finally, because we are one big family, we in Montana, let us give all ourselves a huge round of applause for all the things we're doing to help make Montana an even better place than it already is. Okay, thank you everybody, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And if I could get the Senator and Deborah Parker, the current chair of the Mountain Line Board of Directors, to just walk over, and maybe Deborah, if you hold up the ribbon on the front door of that bus, the Senator can cut it, and we'll initiate this bus. And then there's a sign on the front of the bus, Senator, that indicates that this bus is powered by biodiesel, and if you would just push that sign into its rack, everything will be official.
Everybody ready? We're going to count on three, okay? Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hey!
Go ahead and push that sign into the rack, and that indicates that this bus is powered by biodiesel.
Okay, here we go. Teamwork. That's okay. Push together. Okay, ready?
That'll work. There, we'll get it put together. We've got a mechanic on duty that's going to slap that together. And if anybody wants to go for a ride, we've got both these buses here. Operators, you can go for a test ride in these new buses. And if you don't think it's a great ride, we'll bring back one of the old buses and give you a ride in now.
Good job. Way to go.
Thanks, I appreciate everybody showing up. There's refreshments and cupcakes inside the building, and you're welcome to look around our facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. You gonna take a ride? How are you?
Thanks.
Let's go get a cupcake. Come on.